Hello everyone, welcome back to NewsRoom. I'm Chella Smith. This is your Middle East U.S. entertainment news here on YouTube. I air on Fridays. Today is a little early. I bring you the latest on reforms and economics of Iraq based on reports put out by the Middle East news media outlets. I do this weekly review and it's based off my interests. It's great to be back. I missed you guys, so thank you for joining me. Last week that I was here, we talked about the exchange rate, the highest reserves in history, the IMF reforms, financial policies, and Senate giving green light to Iraq. Let's take a look at this week's headlines. Shafaq News reports the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq, Ali Al-Awlaq, confirms on Thursday that Iraq is on alert to control the dollar exchange rate, stressing that the government's commitment not to reach the dollar exchange rate to countries with which the United States prohibits dealing in U.S. currency. Al-Awlaq says in a press statement on the sidelines of the World Bank and IMF meeting in Washington, reported by Bloomberg and seen by Shafaq News, that the U.S. requirements for controlling remittance, saying, "We do not classify them as restrictions, but all that is required is application and the money laundering and anti-terrorism law. We are on alert at the central bank to adjust the dinar exchange rate." He continued explaining that the problem is not related to internal finance crisis, but rather to pre-auditing procedures for external transfers of hard currency. External transfers through the platform doubled very quickly, explaining a balance in supply and demand for the dollar. The U.S. Treasury agrees with the need to expand external transfer channels. The new system does not aim to restrict the response to legitimate requests, as much as it's aimed to provide protection to the banking and financial system from illegal or suspicious operations, and supports the application of anti-money laundering and terrorist financing law and related instructions. With regards to the structuring of banks, the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq, Ali Al-Awlaq, pointed out that the target of structuring banks are government banks that represent more than 80% of the sector. And the positive thing is that there is harmony between the government and the central bank to reform the banking sector, revealing that all options are available for structuring and developing the sector, including mergers. The meeting of the Iraqi delegation with the IMF and the World Bank began on Wednesday in Washington, D.C., in the presence of Ali Al-Awlaq and the Finance Minister, Taif Sami. The U.S. Treasury Department expressed great flexibility and willingness to help the Central Bank of Iraq stabilize the dollar exchange rate against the dinar. Thursday, the Parliamentary Finance Committee confirmed the holding of continuous meetings to write the budget report before presenting it for the second reading, and while clarifying the mechanisms for reviewing the projects, and indicated that the new salary scale is still under study. Mustafa Al-Kawiri, a member of the Finance Committee, told the official news agency that after completing the first reading of the budget law, the Finance Committee began holding its meetings until the completion of writing the budget report and including it for the second reading, explaining that the committee will apply a mechanism to reduce the deficit by studying the budget in detail and working to reduce the expenditures in the operation budget as well as investments, while studying the size of loans and expenses fixed inside this section. The budget study will also be related to the calculation of oil and non-oil revenues, and on the basis of which the total revenues will be determined after studying the items in detail. The committee is obliged to speed up and intensify efforts to mature the budget report and prepare the observation and submit them to Parliament as soon as possible, which is hoped to be next week. He pointed out that the degree of delegation and creation are fixed in operational budget, as well as some ministries have requested job grades. He pointed out that one of the most important things that the committee worked on in the adoption of the same financial allocation of salaries with the redistribution of a number to achieve justice and bridge disparities. Shafaq News reports the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mohammed al-Halbousi, announces on Wednesday the end of his vacation, which was granted to himself 15 days. The Speaker of the House of Representatives has completed his leave and will exercise his duties as of Saturday, April 15th. Halbousi's office says in a statement to Shafaq News on Thursday, March 30th, 2023, that the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mohammed al-Halbousi, grants himself a regular 15-day leave from April 3rd, authorizing the First Deputy to manage the sessions of the Council and authorizing the First Deputy of Vice President of the House of Representatives to follow up with the work of the Parliamentary Committee during the period of his leave. The session will see the reading of a number of laws and a discussion of the budget law, and it is likely to be held next Thursday evening or on Saturday. Now, this next article was very controversial. Although Baghdad Magazine News reported the Trade Bank of Iraq decided on Wednesday to approve the dinar currency only in the ATMs and electronic financial services in support of the Iraqi national currency through its adoption in financial transactions inside of Iraq and non-use of dollar currencies and the implementation of decision of the Council of Ministers and the directive of the Central Bank of Iraq, it was decided that the cash currency approved in the ATMs of the Iraqi Bank for Trade Bank will be in dinars only, according to the media advisor of the bank. Al-Shawawi added in an interview with the official news agency that it was decided to cancel the dollar currency from ATMs as well as the national currency in all electronic financial services. According to an inside source, the U.S. currency is still available for withdrawal. Baghdad Magazine News reported the Central Bank of Iraq's Governor Ali Mohsen Ismail al-Awlaq met with the delegations from Aaron Point Iconic. The company is one of the largest data center owners in the world, operating in more than 26 markets in the United States, Europe, and Asia. And the company has data centers for the largest global technology companies with the development and operation of those centers, including Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. The central bank's media office says in a statement that the governor of the central bank said that the meeting had offered from the company on a global growth trend in data center markets, which is expected to double its profit in the next 4 years to reach about $720 billion, noting that the company is looking forward to investment in development of the data centers in Iraq to facilitate the digital transformation of the Iraqi economy. The governor stressed the desire of the Central Bank of Iraq to develop its infrastructure, the need to store and operate data on the Iraqi territory to protect national security, and in the accordance with international best practice. Ufaret News reported the International Monetary Fund on Tuesday cuts its forecast for global growth in 2023 from 2.9 to 2.8%. Although good growth is expected for the economies of major emerging countries, particularly China and India, it will be weaker than the IMF had hoped for in advanced economies. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, boosted China's economic growth by 5.2% in 2023, while raising its forecast to Eurozone economic growth of 0.8% this year. The International Monetary Fund also forecast the oil average price to $73 a barrel. And Shafaq News reported the World Bank reported for the month of April predicted that Iraq will achieve the second place in the Arab world with the largest GDP growth during 2024. Iraq's GDP is expected to grow during the current year, 2023, by 2.8% after achieving during 2022 of 7.9%. The bank said in a statement seen by Shafaq News that he added that it's hoped that Iraq will achieve GDP growth in 2024 by 4.4 to occupy second place, noting that Qatar's GDP growth for the same year will be 2.9%, the UAE at 3.4%, Saudi Arabia at 3.3%, while the growth for Egypt will be 4%, Jordan will be 2.4%. GDP gives a general idea of a country's economic growth, and this growth is usually accompanied by an increased employment opportunity and increased wealth but the criterion does not include whether growth is sustainable or temporary, or whether it is caused economic damage in a medium or long term. GDP is purely physical indicator through which the quality of life in a particular country or the happiness and comfort of a population cannot be measured, nor does it indicator take into account the environmental standards and the negative consequences of economic activity that will cost a lot of money in the future. Well, it sure feels good to be back. You've been watching Newsroom Weekly Review. I'm Chella Smith, your Middle East U.S. entertainment news on reforms and economics Iraq. I bring you the latest Dinar news without having to keep up with all the different outlets. I'm here on YouTube every Friday. I know today's Thursday, but I was excited to come back. But don't forget to subscribe and turn those notification bells on. If you like my content, give me a thumbs up. If you really like my content, you can share this channel or you can leave a super thanks or super chat donation. Again, thank you for being a subscriber, and thank you for visiting Newsroom Chella Smith for your trusted Dinar news. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.